May is traditionally beef month here in Nebraska. So I will be signing a proclamation making it beef month once again here in the state of Nebraska. Now, beef is the single biggest industry that we have in the state of Nebraska. Generally accounts for over $6 billion in sales here in our state. And we have a long history and tradition in our state of raising beef. Men and women for generations have worked hard to be able to have the best genetics for our beef. We've got a great environment for our beef. Think of places like the Sandhills, and of course our farm and ranch families that take care of our cattle. And really, one of the things I always like to stress when we're talking about Beef Month is that our cattle producers were the original conservationists. They wanted to make sure they could pass that generation on down, or pass that ranch down to the next generation. And that's been going on for generations here in our state. And that's why we produce the highest quality beef in the world right here in Nebraska. And you don't have to just take my word for it. You can take the word from all of our customers around the world. In fact, over the last 10 years, our beef exports are up 96%. We are the #1 beef supplier to the European Union and China. We're #2 to Japan, Hong Kong, Vietnam. South Korea is also another big market for us. So we have greatly expanded our exports around the world because of the high quality beef we have here in Nebraska. In the past, when we've had high tariffs in Japan, even with those high tariffs, we've been able to grow our market share because our consumers recognize the high quality beef that we have here in the state of Nebraska. So it's always a privilege for me to recognize the men and women who work so hard to produce the beef here in our state. So I'm really excited to be able to sign this proclamation declaring it that May is Beef Month here in Nebraska, and urging all citizens to take due note. So with my signature, we are officially proclaimed Beef Month here in Nebraska. And to talk today about beef and the industry, we've got Steve Weldon, who's our Director for Agriculture. I'm going to call him up here in a minute. We also have Buck Wehrbein, who is the chair of the Beef Council here in Nebraska, and also the national chair of all the Beef Council states, right, around the country. So the Federation, the Beef Council Federation. So he is going to come up and say a few words as well. And then we'll, so Steve, you'll introduce Buck, and then Buck, you'll give it back to me. And then I'll introduce Shelley Sweethelm, who is the lead nurse for the biocontainment unit and the emergency manager for Nebraska Medicine. And she's going to talk about some of her tours of the meat processing facilities we have here in the state, and also the Global Health Center's meat processors COVID-19 playbook that the UNMC has been working on to be able to establish the best practices for these facilities as well. And in fact, I think that the CDC recently came out with some guidelines, but ours are better. So I'm going to brag about Shelley and her team's work there. So with that, though, Steve, I'm going to go ahead and call you up to talk a little bit about May is Beef Month.
Well, thank you, Governor, and thank you for proclaiming May as Beef Month. Nebraska is known as the beef state. We're known here for the product within our state, but we're known around the world, as the Governor mentioned, for the wonderful, safe, and high-quality beef products that we produce here. And by we, I'm talking about our farmers and ranchers. That's where it all begins. Nebraska is so well suited with our sandhills, grasslands, and our dedicated resources of our humans, our farmers and ranchers, but also the water that we're blessed with and our other natural resources. And what I really want to talk about is, Governor Ricketts mentions a lot about process improvement, continuous improvement. Well, Governor, I have a continuous improvement story for you today, and it's the beef month. It's the beef producers in Nebraska. If we compare ourselves from now back to 1970, we produce the same amount of beef today as we produced in 1970, but with 1/3 less animals. And nationwide, we produce about 18% of the world's beef on 8% of the animals. So it's a great message in how productive Nebraska and U.S. cattle producers have been, and how we've continued to improve since the 1970s, and we're still continuing to build on that yet today. And those improvements come from the long history that we have, the experience that our growers and ranchers have, but also the improved genetics, the investment they've made in their operations and their seed stock the way they manage the grassland. And cattle can turn low quality sandhills grass into the most nutritious product, the food product that we can have. So it's a great way to utilize resources, control the resources, stop invasive species, that types of things, and really conserve our resources and move that forward into a nutritious product. So with that, Buck, you're a great spokesman for the beef industry, and I welcome you to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, Governor. Always appreciate being invited to this. It's a big day for me and big day for the beef industry with proclaiming May as Beef Month. A year ago, my colleague, Mike Drennan, who was president of the Nebraska Cattlemen, stood up here and talked about the hardships and the challenges with the floods. This year we're up here and we've got challenges with the COVID. And so that's a pretty big 1-2 punch. And so our whole ag sector, because of these things, is suffering, and cattle producers are too. And that's the bad news. And the good news is the light that we see at the end of the tunnel, we believe now, is not another train. We think that we are going to come out of this. And talking about the 1-2 punch, if you've ever been in a scrap, you come out of that with a black eye maybe and a fat lip, but you do come out of it. And we will come out of this. And we want our consumers, our customers, to know that the beef that they get is the same high quality, tasty, and nutritious beef that we have always produced. And so on behalf of all of our producers here in Nebraska, we are working every day to provide that. Our consumers, our customers want our product, our high quality product. Our producers need the processors to be able to process it to get it to those customers, and the transportation and so forth. And so I want everybody to understand that everybody in this process is working feverishly to get things back online. So very happy to be here, very grateful to all of you to be here. The checkoff that I represent has worked for years, decades actually, developing information, recipes, information on cuts of beef that's available at nebraskabeef.org and also beefitswhatsfordinner.org. So people are eating more at home, they're cooking more meals at home for more people, and there is a great resource on cuts of beef and how to prepare it and ideas for meals. So we are reaching out to our customers. We want them to know that the quality is still there and will still be there. And with that, I thank you, and we will come out of this, and beef, it's what's for dinner. Thank you.
Thank you, Buck. Hey, Buck, you can take this with you as well. Now, what's your favorite cut?
My favorite cut? I'm a New York strip guy. Yeah. Yep.
I'm a ribeye guy myself.
Yeah.
Bone in.
Well, it's kind of,
Yeah. Both great cuts. All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Buck, for being here.